Good evening. You're listening to the Xtreme Movie Show. I'm your host, Rob. Alongside me tonight, I have Professor Pixel, and we are continuing Season 3, Episode 12 of our Twin Peaks stream here. Pixel, I have to say, this episode's, I think that's a solid one. It's a meaty one because there's some new things and some definite developments going on. However, it's not a really fun episode. It's almost kind of, I don't know if mean's the right word, but there's a sense of just something in it that's just not cute. It's not apple pie and coffee and owls and all sorts of cute, cuddly stuff and, rain and jazz music and all that ambient crap. This is just kind of a hard episode. What's your initial take?
I don't want to give my opinions yet because I'm not going to have, while you say the episode's mean, I might be a little mean later on. But we should start with something that's good. And I think the start definitely has potential. And that's with Gordon, Tammy, and Albert. They're all drinking to the bureau, they say, as they're cheersing. And Albert is going to tell her some sensitive information. So much so that Gordon Cole turns down his hearing aid and says, "Do not make any sharp noises, or it will basically damage his eardrums." But they share with her about Project Blue Book. It was shut down in 1970. The government saw nothing in continuing it. However, the Bureau, a few years later, formed a team called the Blue Rose to look into some of the investigations that never went anywhere. Philip Jeffries was a part of one of the agents assigned to it. So was Albert and Dale Cooper. But Albert was the only one not to disappear for any length of time because Cooper is obviously back on their radar. Gordon has been waiting, seeing if they can trust her, but they want to bring Tammy into the Blue Rose Task Force. She's obviously very excited. She acts kind of shy about it, but she's like, yes, I can't believe it, but she wants to join. They say there's a briefing in the morning, and they cheers to Tammy. And the Blue Rose is cold and gets a notification, turns up his hearing aid because Diane's on her way. Albert looks to the curtain as Diane enters through them, and Gordon tells her to sit. She serves herself a drink, and Albert says that they know she has a connection to the Blue Rose through Cooper, through his investigations. So they want to temporarily bring her into the fold because they need her help. She takes a moment after they ask, and she doesn't do anything until she sets the drink down. She does a 2-fingered point at them and says, "Let's rock." And that's where our opening scene ends.
So how does she like her drinks?
I actually didn't note that down.
On the rocks.
I actually didn't note that down. Oh, on the rocks. Okay. Yes.
Okay, but here's the thing, too. It's been a while, but when we covered Fire Walk with Me, when we saw, was it Chester Desmond, I think it was, the agent played by the Wicked Game guy, the singer, he when he disappeared after they found the ring underneath, at the Fat Trout Trailer Park, underneath, on the mound of dirt, when the other agents found his car, because he's still technically missing, I think, what was written on the windshield? "Let's rock." So I thought, this just can't be just a nice little cutesy "Let's rock" thing or on the rocks or like that. That's what I mean by this is a bit of a dark kind of episode to me, or heavy or something, because there's no lighthearted stuff in here. You could argue that the quick little scene we see, which is actually beautiful. We haven't seen a lot of outside scenes lately, but we see the Twin Peaks canopy, and we see the fog and all that, and we see, of course, Jerry finally, after 12 episodes of being ignored after having some shrooms, he makes his way out of the woods and forest. So we'll see what the hell happens to that. I mean, we haven't seen him since early on, thankfully. I think the next scene actually is a pretty intense scene, and it's Mrs. Palmer. She's obviously older. She's pushing the shopping cart around in the grocery store. She's got her Bloody Mary mix. She's picking up the vodka. I mean, she's gonna be getting smashed and getting her drink on big time. The thing is when she goes to check out, there's one of those, empty-headed teenage types where like that standing there and kind of getting freaked out by her. And the reason why she's getting freaked out is because she sees that there's jerky behind this teenage girl, and she's staring at her. There's like beef and there's turkey, and it's this one brand or whatever. No music, no sounds, no cute dialogue or whatever like that, but she kind of has a little bit of an episode about men coming and freaking out or whatever like that, and then she apologizes, and then it seems like she's talking to herself, and then she just kind of storms out and leaves. And we saw her early on in what I thought was a very intense scene in season 3 here, where she's just like laid up at night smoking and drinking, and she's watching kill videos on like lions, eating lambs and stuff like that out in the African plains or whatever, really intense late night kind of stuff. Or we haven't seen her since. So to me, I kind of like the scene. I don't know why, other than it was pretty dark, and she's always been someone that made the most out of what little screen time she had with bringing the intensity without me laughing at her or anything like that. What did you think?
Yeah, no, in the supermarket, I was surprised with how the scene turned, because obviously she's gone through some traumatic stuff. She lost both her daughter and her husband within the span of 2 weeks, was it? So she's definitely got some trauma there.
Yeah.
But there's definitely something
she's supernatural
otherworldly
too.
going on.
She was able to see a little bit of Bob, remember?
Yeah. And here she's at the end talking to herself, saying, "Sarah, get the car keys. Get the goddamn car keys," as she's trying to make her way out of the store. The blonde girl who's working behind the cash register, she goes, "What?" As the boy starts to poorly deliver that he can deliver the groceries to her, knows where she lives. But it's, I don't know. I thought the scene was interesting, yes, but I'm unsure of where they're going with it. But from there, we take a quick, and we actually go to the trailer park. We see the 9 that says "Never come before 9:30," and then we see Carl, and he walks to this guy named Crisco, who's walking with a limp against a cane, and he's kind of like short, not round, but roundish, and he asks if he's been selling his blood again, and he says yes, and Carl gives him some cash and asks about the jobs he's done around the place, and said, "I don't want you to pay me rent this month. I'm going to collect rent, and I don't want you to pay it, because I understand that people in the hospitals do need blood, but I don't feel comfortable with you selling your blood. So if you need some money again, you come see me first." And just really quick, there's a scene. We get to see Dougie Dale once as he's pushed out to the backyard with his son, and his son throws a ball, hoping he will catch it. He does not. One more scene that I'll go over, and it's actually with Sarah, because Hawk pulls up to this house, and we get to see into the window. I almost didn't know what house we were going to, but we zoom in on the window, and as he's walking up to the door, we flash inside to this ceiling fan that's going ahead and turning as he knocks, and eventually, with some slow scraping footsteps, Sarah answers the door. She says that she doesn't know what came over her in the supermarket, even though Hawk's just trying to make friendly conversation first. She's cutting to the chase. There's some rattling bottles in the back, and that catches Hawk's attention. And she says it's nothing. Just something in the kitchen. She was probably just clumsy putting things away. And he looks at her and says, if you need help with anything at all, you reach out to me anytime. And that's pretty much how the scene ends, as she says goodbye and closes the door.
Yeah, I think that the whole trailer park thing, we've been back and forth there a lot, but very quickly. Not much going on there. A character we haven't really seen before, but it just felt like something that maybe Lynch had wanted to fit into something because it's something he remembered, and somebody's selling their blood or their plasma for cash and all that too. You really get a sense that Carl's does care about the people that he's supposed to help out or whatever, and might have had a more interesting backstory should they have ever fleshed that out. But again, it's not really about him, the show, but I think he's been absolutely solid as far as a character goes, despite the fact that he's like 80 something in here too. And Crisco, we don't know him, but looks real, so he's got that authenticity behind him too. Cooper, not seeing him too much, I will say this: as much as we've goofed on some of the Dougie Dale stuff and we realize that's the meat and potatoes so far of the 12 episodes we've been involved in, I'm not missing it. Even with Sonny Jim playing catch with him outside, I like to see somebody's house. I like to see the backyard. I like to see all the different rooms. That's just me. So I'm glad we got to see it out. Sonny Jim and him trying to play catch, and Cooper just standing there like an idiot. But Hawk, man, this guy, he could easily carry an episode all on his own. He's aged well. He looks as authentic as he did back then without having lost any sense of ability, I guess. I mean, he just seems like he's still really sharp and in tune to the universe and that spiritual Native American sense that's always been portrayed or whatever. I don't know what's going on with Sarah. You mentioned about the delivery boy at the grocery store saying, "Hey, maybe I can deliver him to where I know she lives." Obviously, I don't think they're gonna not say that unless something's gonna happen. So this is interesting to me, and I love it. We haven't seen her hardly at all, Sarah, and then when she comes on, boom, we got stuff going on in a very quick scene. We do have another really quick scene here, actually, too, where we actually see Miriam, who's completely unconscious, laid out in a bed, and it's just a reminder of just how nasty what had happened with the kid getting hit was too. So it's a primer for a scene that's going to be happening here shortly, but it's effective. I think so too. And then there's another really quick scene too, which makes you go, wow, they're mixing in some long scenes with a ton of little small scenes. So it feels like this episode's flying. Diane's drinking, and she's got a text message with a question mark saying Las Vegas, and she responds with, "They haven't asked me yet." And we know or strongly suspect that Albert has got her cell phone tapped, right? So we know that this is Evil Dale and Doppeldale, as we're calling them, and we haven't seen him in a while either. Again, not missing him, but I don't know where this is going to go, but the way Diane is, I want to see her get what's coming to her. And I really like how the squeeze is on her and we see it too. But I'll pause there and let you catch up to it, because then we get into a big scene.
Yeah, no, I mean, seeing into the hospital, I was unsure who it was, but the next scene obviously clarifies that, and you see what happened. And moving on to Diane, to Las Vegas, and they haven't asked. What haven't they asked? That is the question. But from there, we do get that big scene. Ben Horn is sitting in his office, and his assistant Beverly announces Sheriff Truman. Sheriff Frank Truman comes in and takes a seat, and Ben basically asks, how can he help? Truman explains that it was his grandson, Richard, the scum who ran over that little boy, The large woman that we saw in the hospital bed is alive, and it's the witness who saw Richard kill that little boy. And so Richard tried to deal with her. She needs an operation, and she can't cover it. So Ben says that he'll pay. He'll cover it. They start making some light conversation about Richard and how he never had a father growing up, and that was a problem. Ultimately, the conversation shifts after a long moment of silence, and he pulls up the key, saying that I was going to send this to Harry. We haven't used these in about 20 years, but this is to room 315, Agent Cooper's old room that was sent to the hotel through the mail. And he thought Harry might like it. And Frank says that he's sure and he can take it to him. The delivery here is a little odd because it's almost like they repeat themselves before he finally agrees to take the key.
You think so?
And
it almost seemed that way too. Yeah, maybe it was an editing thing.
There's along the lines of the word strange coincidence that this key came here because they're investigating an old case that has to do with Agent Cooper. And Ben says that he's sure that it does seem odd too. From there, they say their goodbyes. They shake on it. They have a decent relationship, at least. And we see Sheriff Truman leave. Bev then steps into the office, and Ben explains that his grandson killed that little boy, and they're having a father. That's what did it. Then he starts going on rambling about this old Schwinn that his father got him and fixed up and put a new seat on just for him, and how he loved to ride that bike. He then asks Beverly to handle the Miriam situation. He forgot her last name, but I forgot it too. He tells her basically, whenever you call, they'll know who you're talking about. Cover all of her medical costs. And Beverly nods and she goes to handle it. And the last words that we hear is Ben Horne saying that how much he loved that bike that his father got for him.
I like this scene. I think it's a very strong one by Benjamin Horne. We've seen him wax philosophically and have a lot of character-driven type speeches, being a main heavy in the original show, and of course in season 2 with the whole "oops, knocked my head, I'm gonna act like somebody else stupid ass angle" or whatever with the Civil War and just annoying stuff. And despite the fact that I found that annoying, this man, he did a great job delivering it too. And in this season, he doesn't quite have the matching wits setup that we're used to seeing here too. But this, again, I agree with you. I think there's that little scene in there. It seems a little confusing, like they're repeating themselves, or maybe it's an editing thing. But that being said, it's a great scene. You can see them not in a rush to just say whatever they need to say and be done with the scene and all that. It takes its time to kind of gel. It makes us wonder what's going on with this room key. Why the hell is he going to get it? We've seen it early on, right? And now we've seen it come full circle. So in addition to everybody starting, for the most part, that we've been spending a lot of time with, Dougie, Dale, Albert, and the gang, they're all away from Twin Peaks, which I mentioned early on. I think one of the paths that we went down differently was that I think you said you would have probably enjoyed it if it were a little more in Twin Peaks. And I said I like that fact that they're not in Twin Peaks hardly at all for the show now, and it'll end up there. Because to me, you can start off the whole season 3 here in Twin Peaks, and then I think you lose a little bit of its luster. And I think the less is more approach is going to work. We're 12 out of 18 episodes in now, and now we're feeling and seeing all these little things starting to converge for it too. It's a great scene with Benjamin Horne too. The next scene, I think, is just supposed to be a little bit lighthearted or whatever. Gordon Cole's got some bar chick upstairs that he's talking to or whatever. Albert comes up and he's like, well, all right, you go down, I'll call you at the bar. And she takes like 5 minutes literally to like put her lipstick on, have another sip of wine, adjust her brassiere, stare and smile at him 50 minutes times. I mean, she's a piece, don't get me wrong. And Gordon's smiling because he knows what's coming, but it was just a sub for Albert to basically say, hey, here's a text that Diane got about Vegas. here's what she sent out saying they haven't asked me yet. So it's just one of those scenes that seems like it goes on for way too long there too. The other scene after that, which is actually very good, is we have Doppeldahl's henchmen, Hutch and Chantal. They're out Mr. Murphy's home. He's the guy that Dougie Dale had some leverage on and basically forced them to make him escape. And now they're going to assassinate him. It's the middle of the night or whatever. And they're talking about going to Wendy's because they're hungry. You know, are we going to torture him? No, just assassinate him. We're hungry. I saw Wendy's. Let's go or whatever. It's kind of a stupid conversation. But sure enough, he gets out of his car and we see him. They've got it's at night. They got the rifle and boom, Hutch puts two in them. And then a kid comes out yelling and screaming. And well, that ties up that loose end that we're probably never going to know anything more about too. So what'd you take on these couple scenes?
Next stop, Wendy's.
Yeah, exactly.
That's one of the best lines. But before that, with Cole, because we got to see Cole with Albert and this girl. You rushed the scene that they drew out for what felt like 10 minutes because she puts on her shoes, she puts on her lipstick.
Oh, I know.
She does everything.
It's excessive. She's gorgeous. Don't get me wrong. Do not get me wrong. Just like Beverly is too. Oh my God, she's a stunning woman. But
very attractive. But with the way that she spoke with her French, which was very cutesy, I suppose that would be an appropriate word. It was annoying. It was all annoying. I felt like Albert during that scene. All right, well, please move along. Albert ultimately showing Albert ultimately showing the text, and they are trying to figure out. And Cole says that they will figure it out in the end. And then there's a long moment after Cole asks something, and then you see Albert answer it, and ultimately Cole pulls out his watch and says the time, which had nothing to do with the question. And then he takes Albert.
He didn't hear it right.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be funny, but it didn't work.
But then I think maybe this was supposed to be funny too, because he takes Albert's shoulder and says, you know, I worry about you, Albert. And then we obviously go to what you said. And that scene was very there. I don't know what it has to do with anything. And that's ultimately the problem.
The big loose end, right? Because these guys are a couple. Even though it's, you know, she's alluding to screwing Evil Dale. Tim Roth plays Hutch, and I love Tim Roth. I think he's fantastic. I love watching him. He's a small individual physically speaking, but he's got this really larger life charisma. And if you were 6'2", 240, holy crap, he'd be kicking everybody's ass. And even though he's not, he still gives off that vibe. So, you know, I was kind of shocked. I forgot that they were in here, to be honest with you. But again, that's this episode. It reminds you, hey, we've got all these other characters we haven't shown you in a really long time. We're going to fit them all in now.
Yeah, no, and at the end here, we get to see a familiar face. We go to Jacoby's, and he is still running his podcast. You know, here, there was a little bit that reminded me as he was talking about at Studio A here at the Hills, the Hills something, and I was thinking, wow, maybe Rob got his inspiration from here.
What the hell are you talking about?
Palace. You know what I mean when he's announcing.
It's the only decent. The Pine Hills Palace is the only decent place in existence that hasn't been burned down or robbed or whatever, because I'm on several acres. Okay, and I've got Max and Daisy, my twin German shepherds, patrolling the grounds. I have the last remaining citrus in Central Florida. Pine Hills is a war zone. This is not where I got my inspiration. You're high. Look up your Pine Hills history, sir.
I'm teasing you, man.
I know.
I'm teasing you.
That's a great way to plug it, though. Yeah.
At that moment, though, Jacoby is going on about politicians and the shit they do and how they deserve to die and burn in hell for what they've done. As Nadine is watching with a smile and saying that she bought her golden shovel and that it's working for her to dig her out of the shit. From there, though, because that's a very quick scene, we go to a face we haven't seen this entire season.
Yes,
Audrey.
go for it.
Audrey is standing there and she's talking to this short, bald guy. Says she's tired of waiting.
Vertically challenged individual.
Yes.
A small man, little man.
Well, he's actually a little taller
people.
than most vertically challenged individuals. But she is saying that she's going to go to the Roadhouse, meaning that she's in Twin Peaks. She's going to go to the Roadhouse because that's normally where Billy is, and that Billy is who she wants to find. And then, yes, Billy. This guy, Charlie, says that, well, I really have to do this work, Audrey. Don't you understand? I'm so tired, but I can't sleep until I do this work. And Audrey then says how why he's not really a man and why she's screwing around with Billy in the first place. But the most unbelievable thing of this entire scene is him saying that he's her lawfully wedded husband. They expect me to believe that Audrey, who is still stunning 20 years later, would be married to Charlie. No offense to Charlie. He's a fine actor and stuff, the actual actor. But I know nothing about this guy. But Audrey Horn would marry him is utterly unbelievable. It's utter confusion as Audrey is about to convince him to go with her to the Roadhouse. But then they start arguing about a jacket. And that's when Charlie says, let me call Tina, which he was supposed to do anyway. So he goes ahead and calls because apparently a guy named Chuck was the last one to tell her that Tina was the last guy to see Billy. Chuck stole a truck, apparently, Billy's truck, and Billy dropped the charges, Charlie reveals. And this guy uses the rotary phone and calls Tina. And we're watching as he's going, oh my gosh, really? Oh. And Audrey is pretty much me throughout this entire scene in this moment because she's like, come on, from the side. And ultimately, he says goodbye, hangs it up. Charlie looks at her and just looks at her. And she asks, are you not going to tell me? Are you not going to freaking tell me? And we see Charlie just staring as the scene ends.
Excuse me. This is nothing to choke over, guys, because I tell you, I thought this was a great scene, and here's a couple reasons why. When I said before earlier that this is a bit of a dark episode as far as being pretty straightforward, pretty straight-laced, not too much comedy, a lot of little side characters, some dark things, an assassination and all that. I said we have this confluence of events that we're starting to feel like, okay, now the emphasis is going to be placed on Twin Peaks, less of the Buckhorn, South Dakota facility and all this other crap we've been seeing around. We're really far away from where we were up there in the penthouse in New York, where that couple made sweet, sweet love and then got whacked in a really disgusting manner early on. To your point, seeing Audrey, she's aged. She's still a dish. And when she started going in on this scene, I felt like okay, she's supposed to be married to this guy. And they wrote that line in there for us just in case we weren't sure about your lawfully wedded husband. That meant that, to me, the way that's said is just some sort of arrangement. Let's just say, for lack of a better term, that they have. I don't know what it is. It's kind of skeevy in a way, but it is what it is. And we know her to be smart, precocious. She gets in way too deep with things. I can see her continuing that from a young adult until a middle-aged adult like she is now with this guy. I feel like this is very consistent with her character, right? I think that her lighting him up and just going ape shit was very refreshing because we're so used to seeing a lot of older characters. I mean, we've got some young ones too, but a lot of the older characters too. There's not a lot of talking. If you've watched season 1, season 2, a lot of stuff here makes sense. If you haven't watched and you're just watching season 3 cold, it seems like it's probably really slow in plotting. And I can understand that. I think it's very deliberate. But she's just got this emotional bent. And I think this is a tough scene because we're used to seeing her smiling, being sweet, being sultry, being seductive, the whole dancing by herself kind of thing. And we're not. We're getting the full emotionally raw, naked, middle-aged woman who's got some serious issues that she's dealing with in a way that we've always known her as a character. So I think the scene
Oh,
works a lot. Obviously, she's screwing this guy Billy. We don't know if it's that Billy, but it's Billy. And then I think Tina is somebody that Billy also is seeing on the side too. And
what Billy?
of course, she hates, well, Billy Zane.
But that's not his name in the show.
I understand that, but it makes you think of Billy Zane, or at least it makes me think of it too. Like, oh, is she still
It
seeing
made me
the
think
guy
of
that's
Billy Zane as well.
right? So I'm just saying the point is it's to me an immediate reference to the person that she had relations and I believe lost her virginity to on the plane before he flew off, right? Towards the end of the very end of the episode of
Mhm.
season 2. So for me, I don't know what the situation is with this guy. I will agree with you that even though he's a small man, he's got a very mature looking face in the way he's an accountant or whatever like that. I think he does a fantastic job in here too because he's supposed to be the schlub that just married her out of convenience. We don't know exactly what it is too, but he's not yelling at her. He's not going down that angle. He's not going, hey, woe is me. Oh yeah, yeah. He's just it's an interesting dynamic. It was one I was not prepared for. I'm
Well,
not saying I like it or I find it refreshing, but I think it's done very well. I think it's an exceptional scene actually, and it's all because of Audrey primarily. But to your
yes,
point,
I'll
when
agree. Not to cut in and push on into the next scene, but I'm going to talk about this right here. Audrey is great. She's absolutely great, and I didn't mean to say that she wasn't great in this scene. My point
right
was that this scene has nothing to do with anything. There is
that
not
we
a
know of
single
right now at
person,
this point, you're absolutely correct. But we've had a lot of
and we
scenes
only
like
have
that, haven't we?
6 episodes left. 6 episodes left, and this is being thrown in there. It's just astounding to me that this is where we are.
Well, I like the fact that a major character we don't see all the major characters at the beginning. I like how we saw a few. Like we have I like how we have 1 or 2 lines, plotting around some, and I like the fact that we have one, maybe we'll have another one here these last couple of episodes. I mean, I like that actually too, not knowing. I think that's cool. I do. So I can understand your consternation, as it were, sir, but it works at least right now. Yes, I want to know what's going on too, and it's with 2/3 of the episodes done after this one. We still got technically a ways to go, so some things can happen and they can play off too. It doesn't have to be completely like linear or everything all has to start character wise, and we see them all early on. So I like it. And we don't know too with actors what kind of commitments they have, how much they wanted to be in it versus how much Lynch wanted to. It's really hard to say. Um, but I can see where it's a very divisive scene too. I think it's obviously the scene of the whole episode, really, because the next scene really isn't much of anything. Diane goes to the bar, and she's got a picture of the arm that we saw from a few episodes ago that's got all the numbers on them that are coordinates. It appears because she puts it in her phone. She's double tapping and double tapping, and sure enough, right before the Canadian border, which is where Twin Peaks is supposed to be, when she zooms in and gets close enough, that's exactly what she sees, is that the numbers on the arm were coordinates of Twin Peaks too. And I like this because, like I said, we know she's, or at least I'm thinking she's not good. And so it's like, all right, she's going to get drawn into Twin Peaks. I'm like, yeah, we're closing this episode on the fact that, yep, we're going to Twin Peaks, baby. So I did like that. I think the Audrey scene combined with this one does it, because I know you don't care about the last scene.
Why would I care about the last scene? That's the real question. Because as we move across the dark woods, I'm sorry, I think my Wi-Fi cut out there for a second. I was so excited to see Diane enter the coordinates and Twin Peaks pop up. Okay, but as we move across the dark woods and we go to the roadhouse once again, and we see this band, and then cut to a random girl drinking with a friend. From the side profile, I thought maybe, oh, is it Shelly? Is she with one of her friends? No, it's just a random girl. They're saying something about Clark dating a girl named Angie, and
This
yet
would be
being seen around.
Abby and Natalie.
Abby and Natalie, yes, talking about how Clark has been going serious with Angela, who's off her meds and might go crazy if she learns that Mary has been going around with Clark. And something about how Angie is not only off her meds, she also lost her mom. Then this guy burst in.
She's fallen in love with the guy that they're bitching about too.
Yeah. But there's
this dude's name who came in, right? Did you write that down?
Trick.
His name's Trick.
Guy named Trick comes in. He sits down there saying some guy tried to run me off the road, and he says that he needs a beer. Do y'all want beers? I'll go get beers. He goes off, and then they look at each other and say how apparently he's a free man. And the one girl, not the Asian lady, the other one says, "Whoopee."
Natalie.
Yes. As the show ends. Why?
It's an excuse to have two beautiful women at the end of the show, because these women are hot.
Oh no, there's no doubt about that.
Well, obviously, seriously, and again, whether you have a taste for these scenes or not, they're in a show like this. The whole thing is about this guy Trick who ran him off the road. Okay, and is Benjamin Horne's grandson, who's a complete piece of shit asshole guy that we know this. By the way, I think he's in season 2 of The Witcher, also playing the same kind of character, a bit of an asshole. So the guy's a legit asshole, and that's in a good way too, acting wise. I don't know if we'll see these ladies again or not. It seems kind of not the right place to do it, because anytime the episode turns and it's the Roadhouse at the end, I go, nothing is going to happen here unless it's 9 Inch Nails. And even then, that's just 9 Inch Nails. So I just pay attention to none of it. I just go, it's an extra 5 minutes of credits before they roll the credits. That's how I look at it. But Trick was funny. Oh, this guy's going to run me off the road. Hey, you want some beers? Yeah, I'll get you some. All right, I'll be right back. I'd like to see what happens to these two ladies a little bit later with Trick. I think we got a little bit of a party here, if you know what I'm saying. But that's
listen.
It has absolutely nothing to do with the episode.
Nothing. And you know what? That's where it reminds me of the Audrey scene, except we have some emotional tie to Audrey, which is the only respect that makes it any better. And it's all to do about nothing. There's nothing with Dale here except getting hit by a ball, and Gordon Cole's whole segment with the annoying French girl. This episode is just filled with unnecessary garbage, and it's infuriating.
I can't argue that. I can't. I just can't.
Like I'm trying to think of a time where the show pissed me off as much as it did by the end of this episode, and I still love the show, don't get me wrong, but this episode here was a stinker. Gosh. Whew.
Yeah, I'm not gonna take that bet. You can definitely argue it. Yeah, I thought some of the good scenes in here were solid. I like some of the emotional connections we've come to know, like with Miriam being in the hospital, even though she's a very minor character. The fact that we're like, that little bastard needs to get a come in, and then we see Ben Horne just doing a great job. We don't care about Jared coming out of the woods. I mean, now the more you describe it, the more I think about it, the more ago there was a lot more time on some of these scenes that really meant nothing. I don't know. I thought they could have played off the whole when they were doing the Blue Book thing and they had the Blue Rose. The Blue Book, I think, was a real project too. So the fact that they're bringing her into the fold, I think's something we've seen coming. So we shouldn't be surprised by that. I guess in a way, I was kind of happy that we didn't see a lot of characters that we spent a lot of time with so far, and maybe that's why I enjoyed it a bit more. I mean, and frankly, if it wasn't for the Audrey scene too, I'd probably be throwing rocks at my screen too, because I'm looking at it like you, going, I don't know what's going on with these ladies at the end, but it feels like a nothing burger. And then the whole Audrey thing, well, I hope it's not a nothing burger, but yeah, I can see where you think that it might be too. So can't argue that this is probably one of the weaker episodes that we've seen out of the 12 and here in season 3 so far too. But you're going to have that, right? I mean, when we rank all the episodes, there's going to be some stinkers, and this just seems like it's one to me and to you as well. It sounds like. Any final thoughts?
I don't think I could express how I feel about this episode anymore. The one thing I will say is by the end, once the credits finished rolling, I had to sit through another annoying band that didn't even sing. Two went.
That's the Chromatics, sir. We've seen them before several times.
Well, I'm sure people enjoy them. I will be happy if I never see them again. The end.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Twin Peaks Season 3, Episode 12. I'm your host, Rob Long. Here beside me is Professor Pixel. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. As always, stay extreme. Have a good night, everybody, until we get into Episode 13, which hopefully will be a lot better than this one. And you know what? I'm going to go out on a limb, Pixel. It's going to be. It just is. There, you like that? Oh, by the way, just an FYI on the Twitter feed, whenever I announce, these episodes going up too. Remember the scene early on where Hawk goes up to Mrs. Palmer's house? She opens the door. That's the house from the original show and everything too. The lady in real life who I think owns that house, I think retweets the tweets or likes, what we put up with that. And I just think that's really cool. I just noticed that she puts up, she's had some video clips there that I saw of some stuff with Twin Peaks. And I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like her talking about how the people have come in and how they were very nice, treating the places they, filmed it and everything there too. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. Just a little FYI there too. So really proud about that. Makes me feel like one or two people actually listen to this. Have a good night, everybody. Stay